Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Geico 15-Minute Moto Show. I'm your host, Ralph Sheheen. You know, motorcycling is a lot about families. You have families that ride together, families that race together, families that go into motorcycle businesses together. And today, our guest is one of those. The Coombs family is one of the most legendary names when it comes to American motocross. And my buddy Davey Coombs joins us today, the founder of this right here, Racer X Magazine, which I am a proud subscriber to and love reading cover to cover. I know that's not your most recent one. It's the one I had in my bag. I've been reading right along. The best coverage when it comes to motocross and supercross. Davey, how did your family get started in motorcycling to begin with?
Well, hi, Ralph. Thanks for having me. It probably sounds like a cliche by now, but my dad was one of those people who just had a sort of flirting affiliation with motorcycles, saw the movie on a Sunday, literally changed his life. The very next weekend, he went looking for the local motocross track, found it, saw everything, loved it, and thought, I'm gonna do this. But then when he went to sign up, they asked him what bike he was riding, and he literally said, "Well, what do you got?" Because they were in the movie. Did they tell you that you have to buy your own bike?
Yeah.
So the Triumph Bonneville was gone in short order, and Dad had a Mako, and this is 1972, and he was already in his early 30s, and pro motocross didn't really exist, not as we know it. In fact, that was the first year of AMA Pro Motocross, and he was past his prime, and but he enjoyed the racing so much that he started working at the track, getting himself some free admission, and pretty soon my mom is working the front gate and my mom's working the concession stand, and my brother and sister and I were three little workers, and that meant caution flagging, picking rocks, and doing all that stuff till we could afford a mini bike for the three of us, and from there it just kept going and going and going.
And so then, Davey, you yourself have done just about everything there is to do in the business of motocross, from doing the magazine to, as you said, working the races. You've raced yourself. You've called races on TV. How did you get your leg first over the side of a bike and entered into a race?
I got a hand-me-down Honda QA50 in 1974. It had been my brother's first, even though my sister's oldest, because she didn't want to ride mini bikes until the day she saw my brother ride around, at our grandma's farm. And then she had to have it. And so by the time it got to me, it had a few hours on it, we'll say. And I remember getting lapped twice in a 3-lap race the first time I raced, but I did get a trophy. And I now know that that's what they call a participation trophy.
Yeah.
As far as I was concerned, I got 5th.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. But you took your racing career a fair ways.
I did. I won some amateur championships, and then I turned pro in 1985. And it didn't take long for me to realize that was not going to be a paying job in the future. My height was, I got a 9th at Daytona, and then I went to college. And it was real clear by then that guys that I'd grown up with, like Ron Lachine and Eddie Warren and Keith Bowen, I mean, they were winning Sunday Pro Nationals, and I'm racing amateur day and doing Pro-Am stuff. So I went to college, and but along the way, I picked up photography, and I really enjoyed writing stories about the races I was at and the trips I was on. And that sort of gave me the idea to start a newspaper. And this is the late 80s when desktop publishing and Kinko's could be your office, and but my mom, on a parallel track, was working in a print shop through much of the 70s. That's she would design my dad's posters, she would write the race reports, she would come up with the little newspaper advertisements, and I just picked that thing up from her, where all of a sudden I was a publisher, and that was the beginning of the racing paper, which became Racer X newspaper, which became Racer X Magazine.
Yeah, which is now a massive corporation in its own right, and doing so many different things like television, websites, and so forth and so on. While you're doing all of that, the family, you dad, you kind of mentioned, it's over here promoting races, and now the family is the promoter for Lucas Oil Pro Motocross.
Yeah, it was a very gradual thing. You know, my dad, he was an idea guy. Everywhere he went, he had a notebook with him. You know, they're on the dash of the van, you know, scribbling notes, the races he'd go to and stuff. And so he opened his first track and had his first national by 1974. And then he came up with an idea that he'd taken straight from On Any Sunday, the idea for the Lake Elsinore Grand Prix.
Yeah.
So in 1975, this gentleman, he was actually a preacher from Davis, West Virginia, approached my dad and said that he wanted to do this race, just like, you know, again, he saw on Any Sunday, only it was the Lake Elsinore Grand Prix. And this guy wanted to do it on the streets of Davis and West Virginia. And lo and behold, that became the Blackwater 100. And from the Blackwater 100 came the AMA National Hare Scramble Series. After that, Grand National Cross Country. And now it's the biggest off-road series in the world. And then my brother and I were racing amateur, and, you know, the old AMA Nationals they were very nomadic. You'd go here, there. One year it'd be at Hangtown, the next year it'd be at Lake Sugar Tree, the next year it'd be at Redbud. And he came up with the idea of putting it in one centrally located spot, and that became Loretta Lynn's. And then as far as pro motocross goes, when it became obvious in the mid 90s that Supercross was consolidating with like Gary Becker and Charlie Mancuso, and Mickey Thompson Entertainment Group and Bill West, Dad realized if he didn't get the national promoters together for a more cohesive series, they were going to get rolled up and swallowed by Supercross. And so he started the National Promoters Group in 1997. Unfortunately, he passed away the next year. And it kind of fell on my sister and I and my mother to sort of keep everyone together. And then you got to fast forward to 2007. The AMA decides to sell AMA Pro Racing and all of the series, road racing, flat track, hare scrambles, and motocross. And we bid on motocross. And in the end, they gave it all to Jim France. Daytona Motorsports Group bought everything, but they didn't know motocross. And they immediately turned to us and said, we want to lease you the rights to pro motocross and keep it going just the way you did always. And that was the beginning of, you know, the system we have now, which started in 2008, where MX Sports runs the series with various individual promoters.
When you think about everything you mentioned there, from Loretta's to the GNCC to what's going on with pro motocross, you in a lot of ways control the future of so many young riders that want to have a career racing a dirt bike. That's got to be a lot of pressure.
It is, and I think it's also a wonderful responsibility. I was one of those kids. My brother was one of those kids, and all my dad ever wanted for us as being those kids was an even playing field. You know, we lived in Morgantown, West Virginia. We didn't live, you know, out in California where all the factory riders were and the tracks like Saddleback and Carlsbad and Indian Dunes. But my dad just had this vision that you know, if we built events that were that good only on the East Coast, maybe we'd get some attention. And you know, it's a totally different story. But that's where the 125 Supercross class, which is now the 250 class, came as we know it. He and Bill West said, hey, there are kids on the East Coast that just never have a shot. Why don't we have an East-West support class in Supercross? And that's grown into a mainstay of Monster Energy AMA Supercross as we know it. Dad always treated everyone fairly. That's why at Loretta Lynn's, you have this track in the middle of the country, off limits to everyone, 51 weeks out of the year. But that 52nd week, everyone gets the same amount of time on it. They get the same 3 long motos. And if you're good enough, you will get noticed. You will rise to the top. And, you know, we look at things like that with the magazine too. People are like, hey, you should do a story on my kid. And it's like, absolutely. Let me know the next big race he wins. Or, you should sponsor my kid. Well, we don't sponsor kids, but we sponsor events. And, so it is a responsibility, but it's one that I'm proud to have. And I feel like, in the years that we've had the magazine, and then half that much time, the years that we've had pro motocross, that we've given everyone the same opportunity.
I know you've given back quite a bit too, and the folks in Waverly, where Loretta Lynn's facility is at, have really gone through a tough time here recently with the flooding in Tennessee, and you folks have done quite a bit to help them.
A lot of people have, Ralph, and you're right. Waverly, Tennessee got hit by that flash flood. We were literally at Budds Creek, and my sister's phone rings. It's Loretta's daughter, Patsy Lynn, and her son and my sister's son were down there trying to move equipment when that flood hit. And we lost the track, but that doesn't matter. There are people down there that lost everything. Loretta's fine, MX Sports will be fine, but the people who work that race, the community, the flaggers, the people who pick up the garbage, the people that park the cars, a lot of those people lost everything, including 20 people that we know have lost their lives. So we decided that the best thing we could do is pay that community back for giving us 40 years of help and support, and not just my family, but any family that goes there and has been part of that event. So we came up with Racers for Waverly, and it hit the ground running. And these are things like this crisis management we learned with the Safe to Race task force when COVID hit, like how to really work with local health officials, how to work within a community, how to convince them that this is going to be a safe, positive, outdoor recreational motorsport.
Yeah.
And we're using that same thinking with helping Waverly. And I don't know if you watched the Ironman National this past weekend, but when Jet Lawrence gave his prize money after the best day of his career to the people of Waverly, I literally cried. And I went over to thank him afterwards under the tent where they sit before they go up on the podium. And I couldn't get the words out. And he was like, "Mate, it's cool." And I'm just like, man, this 18-year-old kid is really got some soul and some passion.
Yeah, well, it says a lot about the motocross community, doesn't it? And motorcycling as a community in general. I know you and I both love photography, and we can see your handiwork behind you. I know you love taking pictures of signs when you're out roaming the country, going from race to race. But I also kind of want to see a little bit around the Racer X offices there. I know there's got to be a giant photo of me hanging in there somewhere, Davey.
It's actually Art Ekman.
Oh, okay. Nice. Well played, Davey Coombs. Well played.
This is my office. Oops. And it's always kind of a little messy. But let me take you in the lobby because I have something really funny and a story that you'll get a kick out of. Your partner and very good friend, Ricky Carmichael.
Oh, yeah.
He retired in 2007. For some reason, he gave me this RM250.
He gave you a bike.
He gave me a bike. I have no idea why. Maybe he forgot about it. But anyway, I told him, if you ever get yourself in a two-stroke race, right there is the bike you're going to ride because it's never been started. It's the most mint. And it's actually a 2005. That was the bike Suzuki did whenever he won his last championship on a two-stroke. And
wow.
Anyway, that's my dad's second bike.
Okay.
75 Husqvarna. This is a bike my nephew Caleb Russell built, and that's one of Caleb Russell's special edition KTMs.
That's really cool.
Over here, that's my very first Honda QA50. Not the exact one, but the model. My mom found it online, and we got it cleaned up. And
Davey, go back in there.
Yeah.
Go back in there. Davey, is that a Christmas tree?
Yeah, but it's all motocross ornament.
Yeah, but that's cheating, Davey, not having to do that every year. You just put it up and leave it up? You are lazy, Coombs.
It's only for the office. And speaking of the office, here's a couple office dogs.
We got to have those.
Yeah, and then let me show you one more room. This is an old Ethan Allen furniture building.
Okay.
It's an old Ethan Allen furniture building, and it's perfect for all the things we do. But this is the collection room. That's where we have all the helmets, original Loretta Lynn bib, There's a bigger than life James Stewart. We have every room is full of toys and fun stuff like that.
That is fantastic. Really cool.
Yeah. So I'm lucky enough to get to race or get to work in motocross every day, not just at the races, but when we're here at the office. And all we do is bench race and talk about the good old days and talk about the fun things we're going to do tomorrow.
So speaking of tomorrow, you've done so much leading up to today. And as we've talked about, you've done a tremendous amount to provide opportunity for kids who want to go racing all the way up to where they can have a very successful and fruitful career if they want to turn pro. What do you want to do? What's the one thing that has been sitting in your mind that you want to have as maybe a lasting legacy in moto besides what you've already done?
Man, that's a good question. I feel like I'm only at the cross flags though in this, but I've always just wanted to grow it and have opportunities for people to share with their families motocross the way my family did. All the road trips, all the places around the world we saw, all the friends we made, all the cool things we did. It's motocross and dirt bikes in general and motorcycling in general. Now that I think of it, it's a lifestyle. It's a sport. It's a passion. It's a hobby. It's a cruel mistress. But add it all up, and it's I'm lucky enough to get to do this every day. And I know not everyone can do that, but I like to think that I can help them feel good about the investment that a family makes with their time, with their vacations, with their money, with their with years of their lives. Make motocross and off-road racing worthwhile for them. And we try to do that through the magazine, through the quality of our events, through the quality of our races, through social media engagement, TV shows. We kind of have to do it all because no one, I think, loves motocross and GNCC quite the way we do.
Davey, thank you to you and the entire Coombs family for all you guys have done for the motocross industry. It's wonderful, the story of the Coombs family. And if you're interested in motocross and supercross, Racer X, this is the one. Davey's the founder. You're not going to find a better one when it comes to talking about the sport of motocross and supercross. I'm your host, Ralph Sheheen. We sure hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Geico 15-Minute Moto Show. Don't forget, every week, right here on Speed Sport, we produce our own magazine. Pretty good at that, too. We'll have a new episode for you. So we'll see you soon.